So we've just done the custom button. Now we have an icon button we can make use of. And next up, we want to style the settings page. So we really want to go through and style all the labels, the padding, the margins, the buttons, get it looking just like the screenshot. So let's just jump in. Because we're going to be working on the styles now and cleaning them up, one thing I don't really want is this Acco font bug traveling around with us. So for now, I'm just going to remove the Acco font. It does seem specific to this font. I'm not sure what the problem is. I'm just going to use the Nunito font. So we'll just download this, and then we'll go to Assets, Fonts, right-click, Add, Existing, and I've gone ahead and extracted them into the Resources folder of this project, so I can add them all in one go. Select them all, Properties, and make sure they are Avalonia Resources, and then we'll go to the app, and in here, because of the way the Nunito is set up correctly with font names, we can just type Nunito. The font name in Windows is also Nunito. And if you don't specify a font at all and just specify the folder, it will search that folder for all fonts with a font name of this. So this should allow us now to have a Nunito font, and that's compiled fine. So we'll go to the default styles in the window. We will now uncomment this, change this to Nunito, and we'll see if this updates down here when we build again. And then before we'll see anything, we need to just remove these Acco classes. So you can see there now the Nunito font appears. And it looks like we also don't have vertical alignment on the icon button, which if we go to here, let's just quickly fix that. So let's just add a vertical alignment center. And before we fix this, let's just also, in the preview, make one that's actually specifically quite high. There you go. Now you can see the problem. In there, content control, vertical alignment center. That should fix that. Yeah, so let's just remove all the Acco now. And then all of these fonts should change to the Nunito font. So if we compile again, then we just got to compile, otherwise this page won't update to see the new alignment. There we go. Let's just check if we have Acco anywhere else in the project. We have the styles here, which is in the preview. So we originally did this to have two styles, two with Acco, two with normal. So now we can really get rid of both of them. This normal one, again, get rid of Acco in there. And this now is actually simulating an icon button, which we now have. So we can get rid of that. Change this to icon button. Set the icon text. Set the icon text to the same. And the content to home. And there we now have the new updated buttons that all look correct. And do we have Acco style in here? We can get rid of that. We've got Acco Pro Bold, we'll just get rid of that for now. We can always put that back in at a later date. And to be honest, we might as well just delete the font as well. Let's just get committed to what we're doing. Don't want to leave any traces that we're commenting out. So the only thing left now is in the CS project, it's got remove, which we don't need that left in the project. Just edit the project name and just remove them two Accos. And there we go. There's no reference to it now. And in the home page, this is now everything using Nunito font. And to be honest, I don't mind it. I still like Acco probably more, but this is a nice font and everybody can use it without any kind of bugs or glitches. Let's start doing the headers. Let's give them some definition. For that, we will want to add to the styles. So if we go to the styles in here, we'll want a header. We'll just chuck it here for now. And the selector can be on a label, I believe it will be. And we'll call it .header2. We'll start with this general header here. We'll add the class H2. And then you'll notice there's a slight, we zoom in, there's a slight padding on the left that the labels don't have. So there's this misalignment here. Let's just do setter, property, padding, value. And we want to remove all the padding except a little bit below. If we take a look at what that does, we zoom out. You can see that padding's gone there, and we'll keep some padding below. We'll also want to make the font bold, so we'll just do property, font weight value, and we'll do black nice and thick. And we'll want the font size to be bigger as well. We'll do about 20. Let's have a look how that looks. Oops, what have I done there? Oh, put this on window. What am I doing? Oh yeah. Don't know where the cursor ended up there. There we go. So that's nice for a header. If we go and re-add that class now to all of the headers that we want, we'll add it to the location, SolidWorks host, PDM Enterprise. No space there. There we go. I think that's all of the headers. No, settings cache, one more header. That's all the headers done. Next up, you can see there's no gap between these. And if we take a look at our preview, we want some nice defined big lines between them. Because the grid at the moment, this grid here, doesn't support padding. I've tried a few ways in styles and it just is not simple. So there's multiple ways we can do this. We can add classes to every item inside. We can try and style every control inside the grid, but that doesn't work because the CSS style selectors at the moment are very limited. So we can't, for example, do two styles like this. This won't even work because these are two different elements. We can't do templated control because that doesn't work half the time because templated controls don't have padding on. So to be honest, the style classes are quite limited when you come to try and use them in the real world. I'd like to see a lot more support there for true CSS selectors, like simply applying a padding to every item inside of a grid. You try and do that now with a class. So if you do a style and the selector is, say, a grid, and then every element within inside of it, you can even do, like, say, templated control or templated content, and now setup property padding doesn't exist. So you could then try and do with specific ones that have padding, but everything I've tried in this instance never works. You can't do dual selectors as we showed. There's no real individual item that has padding on, even though we know they all do. So that one's out. What I found the simplest thing for now to do is to just add extra rows and columns to the grid to give it the actual padding that we're after. So for the left and right one, we'll just do another column and we'll do, say, 16 on the padding. So we can get padding in the middle. We'll move all these buttons over from row or from column 1 to column 2 now. So they shift over that extra column. And now we have padding between, which if we enable the show lines, you can now see we've got that space in between these items. And we need to do the same top and bottom. That's just the simplest way I've found so far. So we'll just do gaps in between like this. And now we want to nudge the column or row in this case down. So now it wants to be 2 and 4. And we've forced this grid effectively to have padding. Now it's not the end of the world. That's not actually a bad solution to the problem. But we'd want to really bind these to a static property or, something in the resources. And I don't think we can do that in row definitions easy either. So for now, it's just hard coded there. And we get this nice outline. So that's given us spacing. We can do more, but I think this visually on here was just a little bit overspaced. So we could always, say, increase that to 20 if we wanted on all of these and go for a really spacious look. In fact, yeah, I don't mind the 20. Let's also just add a little bit more margin around these grids. Like that, that's much nicer. And the right side will need the same. So there we go, that just gives it a bit more freedom. It doesn't look as clustered. Next up, I think let's focus on these buttons having some style. So you can see we've really got a bunch of buttons. We have this kind of dull, so this regular button, almost a menu button. I don't know what we want to call it because it's pretty much set as a menu button. We've got I'd say this wants to be the default button. This outline probably wants to be called outline. And this one probably wants to be called maybe alert button or warning button. So we want normal, outline, alert, and I'd say it's not transparent because this one is specifically transparent. I'd say stealth maybe, or subtle, we'll call that one. That means in these styles, we need to find somewhere for the buttons, which we have here. and we want the buttons in here. We need to make all 4 of them. So we don't really care about the icon as such, they're all going to be the same except that. So this will be, we've got the normal, we've got the subtle, which wants to become what the normal was. We've got the outline. We've got the alert, or yeah, I'd say alert. So now the first thing to do is change the menu one to subtle, not just normal. And that comes from the primary foreground and background are really now subtle background and foreground. But considering these are used just for fonts and normal backgrounds, they aren't named incorrectly. It's just that for this button, that's not what we want to use. So we'll just do isButton.subtle. And then that alone should make just the subtle button have the background. There we go. And the others have defaulted to nothing at the minute. So now we have the subtle button, which is all correct. And this is the animation. This is animation. This is hover effect, which at the minute we're not sure how we want the hover to look, but that's fine for now. Transparent is separate. And active is fine for now. So we've got the subtle. And to be honest, these are all default. These are subtle only. So let's split that out. Chuck these in here, which is the subtle selector. Into there. Move that to there. That's the default button styles. This is the subtle selector style. So now all we need to do is change the primary background and foreground per button. The normal one wants to be a gradient. So we remove that. We now need a gradient in here. So we'll do some button colors here. So we want primary, button, background, gradient. For that we just want pure cyan, which is, I believe, nothing. There we go. Pure green and blue. And magenta is pure red and blue, I think. There we go. So now we just need to do that as the background. So primary background, this. I think we've got a build. There we go. We've got the nice background. We haven't got, for some reason, the... Oh, left that. Done it the wrong way around. There we go. So I think we'll do probably primary background because it's like a dark colour. There we go, that's nice. And I think the font maybe wants to be slightly more weighted. And to be honest, that'll be in all the fonts. So if we set the font weight to, say, medium. No, more bold maybe. Yeah, that'll do. Then we need the outline button. And this should be the same background as normal. So we can let that pass through, I think. Or if we just copy that for now. Move that into all buttons. And then we want to set the outline border brush, it'll be, to, in fact, all we'll do is nick that. And we'll set the background to transparent. And now we just need the border thickness. Probably 3. You want the text to be the cyan colour, which we don't have yet. So we'll do this. Outline button, foreground colour. And there's the button. You can see we'll work on the hover effects after, but we've got the normal, the outline. We'll put some padding around these, I think. There we go. And then we want the subtle, which should be the one we've already done. That should already work, and it's not. So why is that not working? Well, that's because I haven't updated this to outline. There we go. So now we have the normal, the subtle, the outline, and we want the alert. So the alert will just be the same as normal with a different gradient mapped here. So we'll want alert button background gradient. So the first one will be a pure yellow, and the other one will be a half yellow, roughly, like an orange. So we can just change this value to whatever we want to give it a nice colour. Then this will be the alert button, dot alert, and yeah, should be all set up. We've got 2 extras for no reason there. Build that. And there we go. So now we've got the alert, the outline, the subtle, and the normal. And now we just need to improve these hover effects because they don't really work. That kind of hover for the subtle works for that, but doesn't work for these. So I think for the outline, we possibly just want to fill the button so it looks like a normal button. Now there's a kind of flicker there. I think something's going on. So if we slow down the transition, you can see it's going to a neutral kind of grey before fading. That's going to be because we have in the outline we've done a transparent here. So let's just change that to a primary background so that instead of transparent it will have something to fade to and from. Otherwise it's got, no colour to go from and to. That fixes that kind of issue. And I think for the outline, all we'll do is keep the outline instead of losing it. So we will just add that to the same place here. We go to the outline, copy the border brush, and just paste it into the hover so it doesn't lose that property. You can now see it keeps the effect. Change the animation back to quick. And there's the hover over button. I think maybe change the text to black as well. So the foreground on outline, if we move this over to outline as well, so they stay together. And now the outline button, we'll do colon hover, or in brackets hover. And then what were we doing? Oh, the foreground. So foreground wants to change to primary background. And there's the button now. So that's a nice outline one. The subtle one was correct, and still the foreground is now missing. So on normal, we need the hover for normal, which is here. Normal button, hover. And this should have a foreground that's the same. Actually, have we just set it? Oh, yeah. It's subtle that should have it, not normal. So subtle button hover. That's also transparent. I'm doing this completely wrong. Let's keep that. We don't actually have a normal button hover yet, or a subtle, so both of them are missing. Let's just copy this style, paste it here. And now we want, on the subtle one, I'm not sure where that style went, we must have overwrote it because it's no longer here, but we do have the primary hover background and primary hover foreground, which I've done again, changed the wrong ones. we go. So now the only thing is we have a, there we go, that's fixed. Thought we had a border showing them. So that's them two done nicely. The default one, I'm not sure how we want to animate that, to be honest. Possibly just changing the background to one solid colour. I think it's probably all we need. So we just need another hover colour. And we have primary hover, so we want primary button hover background. And then maybe let's just get rid of the colour. It does not like that. There we go, so that's quite a nice effect. Try going the magenta instead. There we go, I think I prefer that one. So the last one is this button, which to be honest, I think maybe that's fine, going over the alert. But let's just do similar to what we've done here. Let's just do alert button hover background. Let's make it the bright colour. And there we go. So I think that's okay for the buttons. If we look at the settings page now, we have the release button done. These all need different styles now, based on which buttons they are. So the clear cache now just needs class of alert. The export wants to be normal, and the import wants to be outline. And we can see we want the border, I think, to still be the same thickness, otherwise outline buttons are going to be thicker than normal. Let's just move that border brush thickness from 3 on the outline button to just in all buttons. Then the refresh wants to be an outline. And so does the folder. And I think, because when you're hovering over, it's not clear which is highlighted here. I think we want to keep the hover highlight effect on at least the coloured buttons the same. So this one's obvious, it goes brighter. But these two, I think you want to hover to the same colour. So we'll change them both to either cyan or magenta. And to be honest, I'm thinking of cyan now. If we go back to the style, or in fact, is it just in here? Did we do a fixed style? Yeah, here. So let's just maybe make them both this style, which I think means the outline hover, which is set to primary button background gradient, wants to now be primary. Where are we? Normal button, primary button hover gradient on the outline. So that's fixed. The outline, I have again changed the wrong thing, changed the border brush, not the background. So the background here wants to be that. Get it right in a minute. There we go. And then maybe I think the border brush itself needs to also match that hover, otherwise it looks weird. There we go. So now will that look a bit more Yeah, that's a bit more obvious now when we're hovering over buttons, which is highlighted. Kind of makes more sense now. So you can clearly see then which is highlighted. And then this button wants to be a smaller version of the button, so that just involves shrinking down part of the values. Let's just quickly do that. We'll do outlines and small. And then for the button, we can just do as part of, I think just below here, we'll just do small button. Small button. Font size maybe 14. Corner radius maybe 6. Font weight's the same, so that shouldn't need to follow down. Padding, not sure. Border thickness will stay the same. We can chuck a small button in here so we can see as well. So we'll have home, small will do. And there you can see the small now. So I think the padding does want to be slightly less as well. We have small button, padding 9, 5.5, 9, 5.5. So maybe say 6, 6, 2, and 2. That looks good. Now if we build, we should now see the smaller button. There we go. And I don't know whether on that, I think that small button or in the outline, I don't know whether we want this colour or whether it's too distracting, but we'll leave it in for now. And I think that's the buttons done and a lot of the styling. We've still got a way to go, but we'll just stop there now and commit all this to source. And then you can see we've got to style the checkboxes separately and the drop down boxes, which we'll need to bind. And we've still got to do the header.